Okay, go ahead. Recording.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Welcome to the week where we go over topology and UVs. So I'm going to cover as much as possible for the head and the clothes here. The clothes are more straightforward than the head, so I'll spend most of my time on the head. And then I'll probably have a supplemental video later next week just to kind of help out with that. So let's zoom out here. I haven't got as much time to work on this guy this week as I'd like, but as you can see, there's a little bit of progress here and there. So I'm going to do some pants for him just so it's not like this empty kind of gap. But that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So let's see. So this is the head from last week. I haven't gone back in and really adjusted much of that, but it's fine for today's lesson. So let me turn this back on so I don't look at that. All right. So the way I do this, you're going to want to have so the way I start retopologizing the head, you're going to want to have some sort of UVs, right? They don't have to be anything fancy. You just need to basically transfer some texture information over. So over to Maya, that is. So we set up UVs really quick last week to do the texture XYZ stuff, and those will work fine for this. If you didn't do that, another thing you can do with your head is go to the lowest subdivision level, all right, and you can you can either use UV Master, which is located in the plugins palette up here. So there's UV Master, and you just want to make a clone. Where does it work on clone? So let's do that real quick. All right, and then it doesn't matter how you unwrap it. You just want to do an unwrap. All right, if you want to check out what it's done, you can just go to flatten. This is just for those who haven't used this before. That's weird. Okay, higher. Oh my god, so many problems already. Just a sec. But normally when you go to work on clone, it deletes all that, but I guess not. What is going on? I'm hearing a lot of stuff. Let's go to bake all, geometry, delete higher. Let's do an unwrap. Let's do a flatten. So that's the unwrap. So it's not pretty, but it'll get you where you need to be. Unflatten, and then let's go to, where is this? Copy UVs. Let's go back to our other head here. Paste UVs. So now we have new UVs on that head. But I'm going to use the ones we set up last week. So I'm going to undo that. All right. And if you don't want to do that even, you could just go down and use the basic UV and stuff that comes with ZBrush also, which is under UV map. Then you have all these like auto UV things. I don't use these very much anymore, but you could definitely use them. So the reason I'm laying out these UVs is I want to draw a bit of an anatomy map for my topology on the final, for the anatomy map, so I can make sure my topology flows with the anatomy that we've created on the high poly model. So what I usually do, we probably don't need this highest layer to be on right now. There we go. All right. And I'll fill the whole head white. You won't see a difference because it's already white, but just to make sure. So now if we go to texture, we go new from poly paint. It should be 100% white. Okay, so that's what we want. So now we'll turn this back off again. Why is it black? What's going on here? Some tool, black. It's weird to me that it's black like that. It's probably a layer thing. I'm going to bake all my layers real quick. Just preview this properly. All right, color, fill object. Seriously? Oh my god, bake all. All right, there we go. All right, now it'll be easier to see. Go down one step here. So now what I want to do This is pretty much how I do all the heads that I work on. I'm going to pick a nice bright red color here. Color RGB, go. I'm just going to solo the head for now. And I want to start drawing on here. Basically, the anatomical landmarks with this red, so I can see them really well in my when I'm lining them up from dynamic off. So I don't want symmetry on because he's actually still symmetrical, but like normally at this point he's not symmetrical. So I'm gonna do this with symmetry off. So I'll just go ahead and do that with my standard brush. There we go. So just gonna draw some really precise, or as precise as I can get them, lines here. So I know where the enemy is going. And I can see that he has. I might not put a topology right where this line is, but it's just nice to know that it's there. I want to know where that chin lump is. Filtering. Put that ridge on the lip there. Toss in the back corner. What is that beeping?
That's students entering the class. It beeps every time.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I was just wondering. I wasn't sure if it was something that I was doing or... Alright. So, outline the lip here. Let's see. I'll probably just do the one side of the face for the topology demo, so I might not go over like the second side over here. It's basically just the same thing. So I just continue to go follow the topology or the anatomy. So important ones are on the eyes. Lower eyelid here. We really want to get that. Kind of flow around tear duct area there. And we really want to try to get this lower eye bag. So, and you can kind of see where like some of these wrinkles come off the eye here. Might not be able to like get all of these with topology, but it's nice to see and know where everything is falling. Oh, I want to show you guys this one thing that might be helpful for you guys real quick. It's not related to this in any way, but if you go to so let me show you real quick. So if you're in your material, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed in your palettes, say I go to open my material modifiers, right? And then say I want to say, hey, let's open our mixer, and then it collapses, and then you have to reopen it and your mixer's open. That's super annoying. I don't know why ZBrush does that, but if you ever want to fix that, go to your preferences and go to interface, and then you'll see UI, open UI, sorry, not UI, palettes. And then by default, I think you have auto collapse on and FX1 open sub palette. Turn off auto collapse. I always have that up by default. And I found this one the other day, FX16 one open sub palette. If you turn that off as well, then when you go to material or like any palette, now I can open say like modifiers, and I can open like mixer, and it doesn't collapse my stupid my entire palette. So it's just like one less annoying thing to deal with. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, let's go back up here. So I want to make sure I get this crease here in the nose. And all this kind of stuff, when you're doing topology, plays heavily into like the wrinkle maps and the animation of the face. So you want to get it pretty accurate here. And then up here in the eye. What I'm going to do is just kind of outline the nose as well. And kind of the shape of his nose right here. Caruncle. And definitely important to get this crease up here. Stupid projection error. Okay. And then one that's very important as well is you want to get like the thickness of the eyelid. So I'm just going to go around this highlight here. Okay. Erase what I don't want. Alright, and same with top. Okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of erasing there so it's not confusing for me later. Alright, that's pretty good for the eye. You can see, like, if I look at it from straight on, actually there's some stuff there that I don't love. So let's fix that real quick. Just make sure it's a good line there. That works. Alright. And then let's do, I like to try to get the wrinkles in the forehead here, since they're usually pretty easy to run topology across them, or at least average it out so it kind of like hits near where they are. Oh, that's a bad one. Actually, I should have mentioned Lazy Mouse for this helps a lot. I'm not using it right now, but it is nice to use. And maybe this one right here. Right. Almost there. Let's do, just want to get the ridge of the nose here. Bottom of the nose. Just have a little bit of a bump there. I don't know if I'll ever actually outline that, but just good to kind of know that it's there. And then I just don't want to get the shape. I want the edge here where it transitions to the mouth area. Dog's in here chewing kibbles. Oh, there it goes. Alright. So that's pretty good, I think that's all I want on the face. So you don't want to have too much going on because it's just, I mean, you're not going to be able to follow every single little line, right? So you just kind of get the main ones and then work from there. So you could also do some ear ones, but normally I don't worry too much about the ear here because there's not a lot of deformation that goes on there. But you could kind of like just, you know, always try to get that crease in there. Maybe something like that, but not too much. And then the neck, I mean, there can be deformation there, but I usually do the neck like a pretty standard kind of way. And it's just like a grid-like kind of pattern that kind of comes down like this and then around. So you don't really need to outline anatomy there as much. And lastly, sometimes I will go in and just kind of figure out where I want, like, ZBrush telling me where the eyebrows are going to lay, because you will have some topology there to go with them. Maybe something like that. All right. So that will be our basic like anatomy flow map, if you want to call it that. I don't really have a name for this. It's not like a clown map. It's not like really an anatomy. I just call it like an anatomy line map. The only person that ever sees this is the artist doing this topology. Not every artist does this. I just do it because like it definitely helps me line up my topology. So what we want to do now, let's go ahead, do a new texture from Polypaint. There we go, Butte. Let's clone that texture. And texture, flip vertical, and export it. So I'll just pop it in the character creation folder now, and I'll call it anatomy map. And I'm going to change it to a JPEG. That's it. Awesome. All right. And now what I'm going to do, so you can do a couple things here. Here, let me save this real quick just so we don't lose progress. I'll save it outside of this. And, I don't usually outline those because they're like kind of like a primary form shape, so it's not really hard for me to see it. You could if you really wanted to, but yeah. And then a lot of times I'll just do like a grid type flow for the neck. Sometimes the grid, I mean, sometimes it's different than that, but even when I do try to like use topology to outline the sternocleidomastoid, it's like I just don't need the line map to line it up really. I usually use it for stuff. The line map is meant to be for things that need to be really precise, right? So like creases in the skin and things like that. All right, so let's go down to, let's say, level 4. How many polys? Level 4 here for the head. 263, I'm going to go a bit lower. All right. So we can either keep going lower like this, or what I like to do actually normally is duplicate it. And then just go back up. We don't need level 7, that's too high. Let's delete it. And then I'll just do is decimation master, and I'll just keep UVs. So keep UVs, let's say, so that'll keep the shape of the head better, which is better for the topology. Let's see what we get here. Just give it a sec. And while this is doing that, I did want to talk a little bit about, so I posted that thing about baking, and I'll go over this more, but so I've always used XNormal to bake maps, and pretty much every studio I've ever been at is an XNormal user, which is crazy to me if you think about it, because it's just it's a guy that like wrote XNormal. I think he does it by himself, and it's now been like integrated into so many different studios like pipelines and everything. I think some studios will write their own normal map bakers, but XNormal is pretty much the standard, I feel. So, but there's a few things with it that it lacks, and one of those things is like being able to group stuff, and that's a big thing for me. So eventually, I switched over to Substance Painter for baking to test that out. So I know it can bake really well, and I like the idea of having my baker integrated directly into my texturing software. So I didn't try null at all, no, but I'll get to where I'm going here. So Substance Painter doesn't allow me to, so you got to do a match by mesh name, which means say you're trying to bake like 5 things at once. You basically have to name stuff properly. So like if you want to bake the pants and the shirt but not have them bake on top of each other, you're going to say like pants low bakes to pants high, and you have to name them correctly, right? And then shirt high bakes to shirt low. And then if you name everything right, it should work right. But now say you want to use a cage for your bakes, right? So you can't use a cage per group unless you want to make a bunch of texture sets. At least that's my understanding of it. So it's a very difficult thing to do when you're baking something that has a lot of meshes. So I had read about, let me just get this real quick. I had read about, what do you call it, Handplane 3D, and, or Handplane Baker, users, public, documents, data, click save, delete. And so I tried out Handplane Baker, and you can there's definitely groups, which is awesome. And then you can load each individual cage for whatever submesh is in the group, which is awesome. And then you can bake the AO independently for that group, or you can bake it across groups, which is awesome. There's just a whole bunch of other things, and it bakes really fast, and it's just like everything about it. I was like, this is what I've been looking for. So there might be other programs that do that, like Null, but I haven't tried. I know Null, I just haven't tried baking in it. But I'm definitely loving the Handplane Baker 3D. It's really, really good. It's been really it's really sped things up, and also it's free, so can't go wrong with that. All right, so this is saving. Okay, so about his head. Hold on, I lost my chat window. Here it is. Let's go decimate current. All right, so what are we at here? We're at 420,000. We'll do another 5%, see where we're at. So I'm going to go faster, of course. Too low. Ugh, should have done this pre-class. Sorry, guys. Let's do 10%. Still a bit much. Let's do 20. At least by seeing this, you kind of see the target range I'm going for here. So that's pretty good. It keeps a lot of the shapes, which should be good there. It's about 84,000 triangles, polys. String merging group off. And let's export this dude. Let's call it head decimated. All right. So back into Maya here. Grab our head decimated. Cool. Let me change my camera because that's the worst. And let's go ahead and plop a Lambert on him. All right, and let's grab our texture. Description 2, anatomy map. All right, so there we go. There's our dude. So this is going to help you make some good topology. Now, the whole idea behind topology is that you want to flow naturally with the face and like the movements of the face. So and you want all like the normal maps and maps to line up properly, right? So if he does a big smile, you want this line to be, you want some topology to follow that right there, okay? So I'm just going to start going about doing this and talking as I go. So for topology, I always use the modeling toolkit over here. I don't use topple gun or anything like that. And then let's make him live. All right, and start with my quad draw. So and I almost always start in like this area, and I kind of do like mouth, and then I'll do like eye, and like forehead, and then I'll try to like combine everything together. So just kind of get in there. And I start pretty big, right? You don't want to start off too dense, because you're going to be adding loops and stuff as you go. And that's, if you start off too dense, you're going to have a bad time. So start off nice and loose. All right. And just follow that line. Bring it in here. I don't care if it's perfect right now. Let's see here. All right. So let's go ahead and just connect one. So I'm trying to keep it as even right now as possible. And a big part of topology is where you're going to end up putting your poles, or your like fives, your points that have like more than. So for a pole, for instance, what I mean is like you'll have basically like this and this, right? And then let's see here. So you have a point where there's like more than 4 edges connecting to it. So you can call it a star or a pole or whatever you want, but a lot of topology is going to, you don't want to put those in a place of like that has a lot of deformation, because it might not deform exactly how people expect it to. So normally there'll be one. I'm just doing this off memory right now, so I might make some mistakes. I don't have like a cheat sheet up or anything. But generally you're going to put one like right here somewhere. So you're going to have the nose, right? And you'll end up having like the topology that has to kind of flow off the nostril. Right, so we're outlining the nostril now here real quick. And so at some point, the way this topology is flowing and this is flowing, it's going to meet up, and you're going to have to kind of break the flow of it. So that's what I mean by you're going to need a pole in there. So let's see if we can solve that real quick and see what we come up with. All right, so we want maybe this to go there. This is what I meant by keeping stuff like not too dense at the beginning. You're going to end up putting in loops, right, to kind of solve areas. And like if you make stuff too dense right off the bat, you're just going to have too much areas to try to figure out. I'm just going to continue going up this way. Yep. So you get like a little star there in the corner of the nose, which is normal. And then one down here by the mouth. Like it's kind of like right there usually. Then of course you can push stuff over to. Another thing you're going to look for is even sized quads. So So like what I have right now isn't like obviously ideal, so I'm going to smooth all that out. For those of you who haven't used the modeling toolkit, just hold smooth, and if you hold V, it makes your brush bigger or smaller. You can smooth more at once if you want to. Pull this all in here. Just keep smoothing. Recommended references for good to pull. I'll look for some. We'll see if I can find some. There might actually be some on the Facebook group now from last class that we already have found, so we'll have to look through there. And so you can see here that like I don't have perfect quads coming through here, so we have a lot more like kind of horizontal loops than like vertical ones right now. I'm going to fix that, but I'm going to leave it for now just to keep things a little easier. But eventually I'll probably add another loop or two here. So then we'll kind of follow the lips. And now ideally you want this row of quads right here and this row. Since they're both outlining the lip, you want them to meet. Like you want them to be like that, right? So it's a spiral. Or so it doesn't create a spiral, I should say. So you don't want to be able to, you don't want one of those things that like spirals around and around and around. That's not what you're looking for. Do I place stars ahead of time? No, not really. But I try to make them in certain spots. Like normally I know where I want them to go. Hold on a second, let me fill this in. So like I know that I want one usually right about here. I'll want one right about here on the cheek. I'll get them like up here on the forehead sometimes, like right in like a crease there. I tend to get one back here on the temple. So there's just places that definitely help. My ZBrush is being weird here. Move this over. Just a sec. All right. Like 8 million windows up. Let me crush those windows. All right. So we're just going to go ahead and move down to this here. So still just following this kind of like mouth area. Then I'll probably have to start at the chin somewhere around here. So I want it to wrap around the chin. But I also want it to kind of go this way and that way. So see like how it's kind of going to go loop up around like the chin, right? But then it's also going to kind of still capture this like upside down U shape here. You'll notice right now I'm not being super clean about stuff. I'm just trying to lay down some like basically like a framework. So just real fast. It's too hard. Like it's hard to figure it out if you're trying to go too slow. You know what I mean? If you're trying to make everything perfect as you go, it's better to just throw it in there real fast like this, and then just check out your results once you smooth it. So like once I get a big area like that done, I'll go in with my smooth, just kind of smooth it out real quick and see what I'm actually doing. You know, something like that. I want to pull this down here a little bit more. Probably want another loop right there. Just to even it out a bit. Edge loops. Oh, so down here, if you just also just pop this open, you'll see all the hotkeys for this tool. But to add edge loops, you just hold Shift, or sorry, Control. Topology is kind of like a puzzle. It can be a little bit like relaxing to do sometimes. So let's go ahead. So I want to try to keep this star over here, which means all this stuff has to move over, which means I'll probably have to go ahead. I actually might, let's smooth this again, let's put another loop. I didn't need to have a triangle there at all, so I definitely need to do that. Let's go ahead and delete this for a minute, this area. And then relax here. And figure out exactly where I want that star to go. I definitely want it like near the bottom part of this like crease. So I just maybe don't have quite enough topology there to get where I need it. Moving stuff down. Let's try this again. Let's bring it down this way. So you can see that we don't have enough. There we go. That should be a bit better. But again, I think that I would prefer it to go one lower even. So if this can kind of, so I want to make sure we have enough loops going around the mouth here to get like nice deformation. And if I start pushing them down to the chin too early, then I'll end up getting a lot up here, right? Start doing this, and then all the lower ones are going down the chin, and I'm not going to get much under the bottom lip. So I just want to make sure that I have 3 up here right now. I should probably have 3 underneath this here. So I should go ahead and do that. All right. And then now we can go ahead and say, like, okay, now we'll have this break right there. All right. So let's smooth that out a bit. Character is a little higher to do topo. I've never hired anybody to do topo for me. I've thought about it. It's not usually because they're lazy. I think like if I were to hire someone, it's because I have to. So topology, once you have an example, you can really easily outsource it, right? You're like, okay, this is what we want. Now here's the example. Now you make it. It's much harder to outsource something like a high poly model because, I mean, you have to make sure you're getting like the right artists on it, and it's going to be a lot bigger of a feedback loop. So obviously, if I am trying to make a bunch of characters, the easiest part to outsource will be that that low poly topology part. That's just how I feel about it. But then again, whoever's doing the low poly, you're going to want to make sure they're capable of baking everything as well, because you're basically going to need like a full manual of like, here's your instructions, just do it. But I still feel it's easier to outsource like low poly stuff than it is to outsource high poly stuff. But even though both is a bit of a pain in the butt. Maybe it's a little more even here. I don't care if it's perfect quite yet. You can see that I keep pulling this down just to, like, I'm relaxing it, but I don't want it to, like, fully just full out relax. So I need to have those edge loops on the right areas. And I don't care if they're perfectly on the right areas yet. I just need to make sure that they're close. Did you forget the crits? I didn't forget the crits. I have to do them today. Just haven't been able to get to them yet. Had a busy week this week. Alright, so I'm okay with that for now. And so let's move on to the eye area, which is always a good time. I'm just going to start wherever, usually under the eyelid here. And I want to make sure I kind of follow this like tear duct area. You can do whatever program you want to use for topology. If I had it my way, I'd work in one program only, but since I have to jump around. But like, this is one of those things where, like, okay, sweet, because this modeling toolkit actually used to be a different program. It used to be called Next Tools, and it was a plugin for Maya, and then I believe Autodesk bought it and just put it in there, which is like, I was like, yes, that's awesome. I wish that would happen more often. And I'm on 2016 still. I should download 2017, so I've heard there's some really cool UV stuff in there as well. Oh my god, my dog's being a maniac. Alright. So I look at topology, say this again, or try to explain it one more time, and maybe just a different way, is that I look at it as the same as I looked at, like, basically blocking out your model, your like high quality model. You start with like the big shapes, right? And then you kind of, what do you say? You kind of like bring in more loops to define other areas and get there. But like, so like right now I'm just kind of defining like big shapes. Then we want to go up around the eye. So I know I always have a pole in the cheek over here, so it's usually like right about there, because you need topology to start going back like this way and also down. So I'll just stick that there for now. It might move, but it's good to have a bit of a landmark. And there's all sorts of different flows of topology. I'm sure whatever studio you go to will be a little bit different. And this is just a general. So the theory behind this is what I'm doing is it's generally like you have your orbicularis oculi muscle like around your eye, and then your orbicularis oris around the mouth. And so you're basically making like circular like loops around them so you can get that contraction. But then there's other methods where like you might have a flow that kind of pulls off this way and it follows the basically the skin folds a little bit closer. So either way is good, and you'll see different ones in your career. So there's no right or wrong way. The important thing is to just avoid pulls in bad areas and to basically make sure that whatever topology flow you end up going with, it flows well with you know, the facial movements. And a lot of times it's going to be like an R&D kind of thing for whatever studio you're at, like what depending on if they've already set it up or not, but you'll have to work with like an animator or a rigger to find like the best solution. Let me turn my auto snap off for now. It's a bit faster. There we go. So like I said, sometimes people will have a pull here, sometimes they won't. I'm going to try to avoid that by doing this, just pulling everything forward, like so. Throw another loop in there. And nowadays, games, like, it's not uncommon to have a head topology for like a game that has like 12, 13,000 more, you know, triangles per head. So it used to be, so you're still going to get pretty good deformation with that many triangles. When heads used to be lower, you could definitely see some like deformation problems if topology wasn't done well. Not to say that like that's an excuse to do a bad job now. It's just saying that like you can maybe get away with a little more, but at the same time, because everything's more high fidelity and high resolution, probably not actually. You probably can't get away with any more. The critics are more. The critics are no one lets you get away with anything now. If they see something that's crappy, then they're going to call you on it for the most part. So another star like right about there. I can see that I have a big gap in poly, so I'll throw one in there. Now let's do another smooth. LODs, yeah, I've talked about LODs while I do this. So a lot of companies now are using an LOD system called Simplygon, and it's really good. So what you're doing, yeah, Simplygon is very expensive. So you can either run it through Simplygon, right? Although I'm not sure if, yeah, you can run it through Simplygon, which is awesome because you just basically tell it like how much to LOD and it does everything for you. Or you can do it by hand. So my method of doing it by hand is you just, like, if I want to, I'll bake my maps and everything. I'll finish the low poly and I'll make everything look really nice, and then I can kind of go in and just collapse edges. And then because everything's already baked, you're going to collapse an edge, and your normals shouldn't change. Until you really start changing the shape of the model, it should be okay. But yeah, a lot of times they're still just done by hand, I guess, if depending on the needs of the company. I like Simplygon though, because anything I don't have to do by hand, like LOD wise, I'm happy. But Simplygon is expensive, I know. But if you think about it, like if you're a studio, right, and you're like, okay, I have artists doing all these LODs, or I can spend like, I don't know how much Simplygon is, like 50 grand or whatever it is. If I could spend, buy a few seats of Simplygon, and it'll save us like I don't know how many hundreds of man hours, then it's expensive, but I think it's justifiable, at least depending on how many LODs people have to actually make by hand. It's one of those kind of cost versus like time saved deals. So you can kind of see the way the mouth's taken to the cheek here, right? There's a star over here, but that should be fine. But this area is like has a pretty good flow. Let's go ahead and go back to the eye. Alright. Just wrap it up around here. I'm going to try to get about the same reduction tools like balancer, is that good, or would you be better off doing that? I don't know what balancer is. I imagine I can't speak on that because I'm not really sure what it is. I've never heard of it. I do want to make sure though that like my top lid has pretty much the same spans as my bottom one. So like when it closes, it's not like some weird another one here. It's pretty close. And notice I'm trying to get these polys right up there. Kind of like what I did with the mouth, I want to make sure that this loop is continuous, at least for now. I might break it around the edges over here, around the outside corner. Something like that. Because the top lid, if you look at eyelids, and like if you look at the way eyelids blink, no, I'm not going to use triangles yet. I don't know if I'll probably use triangles maybe on the forehead at the very back. That's about it. What was I going to say? If you look at the way eyelids blink, your upper eyelid will cover, say your eyes are closed, right? Like a relaxed close or a blink. You're going to see about 80% or so upper eyelid and maybe like 20% lower eyelid, or maybe even like 90-10. Like there's a pretty big difference in how much you see. And a lot of people will close eyes and it'll just like be like almost like a barn door close, or like a 50-50 kind of close where you see as much upper eyelid as lower eyelid. That's not what it looks like, and the actual upper eyelid does kind of like cover or like squish down the lower eyelid a bit. So that's why I'm okay with breaking this like continuous like flow of polygons around here, because I might want a little bit of that action over there. So I'll just leave it like that for now. And I should say that the eye and the mouth is the hardest part for this topology, in my opinion. And the eye is hard just because like it's a very dynamic area, and so is the mouth. The mouth bugs me though because you basically have to like hide pieces of your high poly model to really get inside of it and get everything working properly. And I'll try to do that here, but it can be a time-consuming kind of thing. But I'll at least give you the idea of what I'm doing so you guys can do the same thing. All right. So we got that there. Let's go ahead and build some of this back out. Pop this up here for now. Building out toward the nose here. Follow the forehead a bit. Follow that wrinkle. And then there'll be a star right here. So just continuing the eye area here. I don't want some polygons going down the nose, bridge of the nose right there. And I'm sure we're going to have a star at some point over here where all the flow is kind of connecting again. Let's follow this. So you can see how helpful some of these red lines can be now that like we're in areas like the forehead where like I can't see where the wrinkles are. Like I have no idea. I would have no idea. So like, and then it kind of gets rid of any guessing game for like where the ridges of the eyes are and everything, because you drew them in and it's just, you know, it should bake pretty accurately. I don't know if I answered that triangle question. I don't use triangles at this point. Especially when we have so many polys to work with now, there's not really a huge reason to for me to use them yet. push this back a bit here. Kind of manually pushing some stuff back. Let's see. This nose out this way. Hold this for a minute. Let's just start connecting some stuff here. Another loop. Smooth out just to see where we're at here. This could be a difficult area too on the nose. There's a lot of like wrinkly, deforming areas around here. So I kind of want to get a flow that's going this way, actually. So I'm not 100% pleased with this flow right now, because if we get a flow going this way, then when it wrinkles, if you look at like a snarl, it will wrinkle in the correct direction. So let's see what we can come up with real quick. Let's say we want this coming down this way, like so. Get rid of, come on, get rid of this. And let's say we have this way. Try to keep this outline of the nose here. Okay. Smooth that real quick so I can see what I'm working with. Put that one back. I'll just kind of round this off here. So we got the bridge of the nose. And then let's keep going in there. Oh. That's not what I want. Come on. It's bugging me too. Just relax that a bit more. I'm going to push that one edge up a bit. There it goes. It gets a little more on the eye bag. So I might have to break a little bit of this flow right here to get what I'm looking for. So like if we want these to come this way and this to go this way, there has to be a star in here somewhere, some sort of like break in topology. So for instance, let's do something like, let's try to stay away from any weird stuff right away. So we'll kind of do something like that. And we'll go up. By weird stuff, what I meant to say was triangles. Some of my terminology is really crappy. Alright, so let's go in here. Smooth some of this out of it. So you see I'm getting a little bit more granular in this area right now, but it's just, I kind of have to get what I'm looking for. okay. Alright, so I like that flow. It's pretty decent. So we're getting that little like flap of skin as well there, which is nice. Now we just got to figure out what the heck we're doing with right here. So I think we can pretty safely turn that corner there. And then just put a little star right here. I think we'll be okay with that. Maybe. I don't love this part right here. Fix that. We are getting the flow we want from the nose, which is nice. Right here in this direction, we're getting this up here. It's just a matter of solving this area across here. So let's just keep figuring that out. So I think what I'm going to end up with, something like this right here, which I'm okay with. Let's put the extra loop in there for now. We might not need all those loops, but let's just see where we're at in a minute. So I'm pretty happy with that flow because we're getting a nice kind of like side of the nose area, and we're going to get some really nice, I think, deformation there with the snarling. No, I lied. There's something I don't like about that. I want to keep this going this way. Come back to that area as well. So some of these areas, it is like a puzzle. Yeah, it'll cover UVs too. So it is like a puzzle, and it can take a really long time, to be honest, especially when you're just doing it from scratch like this. Even though I've done this a bunch of times, it still takes time to figure out. And it's fun for a while. Like, I'm having fun with this right now, but eventually you're just like, oh, I just want it to be good. It takes a little bit of patience. I think we're getting close here with the nose. I totally found this area out here. Like, I like it actually quite a bit. I don't like as much as this area, so I'm just trying to continue to figure that out a little bit. Another loop in there. Push that back. Another one around the eye here while we're at it. So I want to keep this star like kind of away from the eye itself. I don't want to tuck it up in there so we don't have any problems with it. And I will end up, I'm going to put another loop in here, just not right yet. And let's go ahead and push this up a bit more here. Yeah, a little clothing topology, but it's not like this at all. Okay, so I get in there. I'll take a small break from that area and jump up here and continue filling the forehead. And like if we aren't able to cover absolutely everything today, I'm sure you guys will have your hands full with doing just the head on its own. And like I said, I'll do a couple more videos throughout the week of topology and upload them, like a couple more of those half-an-hour ones. One will probably be clothing, and if I have to do some maybe clothing UVs as well, I'll fit that into the other half-an-hour one. So the head, I know from experience last class when we did this, the head took up the majority of the class because it's just like kind of a difficult process. And I like to do it live because it also helps. I think it's good for people to see like problem solving because really I could just give you an example. I think I could do this before class and be like, here, just copy this. But like, what do you learn at that point? You know how to copy stuff? That's not good. You want to learn how to solve problems on your own. So that's like a big part of the process. And the best artists I know are the ones who can kind of like problem solve, because nothing is going to work the way you want it to. Like even if you have like the best workflow, you're gonna have to change that all the time. Problems are going to happen. As you can see, I'm trying to round this topology to kind of go with the flow of those lines in the forehead there. Let's jump over and start making some more cheap ones. I'm just taking a break from those right now. It's just frustrating. Slap some of that stuff in there. And the reason I'm trying to get some of these, I could take the easy way out on the nose and just kind of go up and over it like this. But the reason I'm trying to get some of these directions here with it is I know from experience that when you have a wrinkle map on that part of the nose and the topology is not flowing with it, it looks really bad. So I'm just trying to make sure we get some of that flow there. Takes a lot of smoothing and kind of like back and forth, just like looking at it. Get rid of these loops for now. I do want that to flow down here. Let's get a little bit closer. So maybe I'll pull this over here a bit more. That should help. And then we can get rid of not that one. push this up. There. Smooth all that out a bit. There. Don't mind that so far. You can do that, Nathaniel. Yeah, that totally works. One more thing I'm going to change up here. You guys can see how it's constant like changing and like flow, right? Like how it's kind of working. That's not what I wanted to do at all. Damn it. Trying to lighten up. I got a few too many polys going on. I'm trying to lighten up the load a bit here. Everything else going straight. You could reproject the sculpt and keep going. It just depends on how much you need to continue doing, right? Like, if you just want to, if you're just going to do some like little pores and stuff, you could. The thing is, if you say you do this, and your model's still symmetrical, and you go into ZBrush and you do your asymmetry, right? You'll just have to double check to make sure that everything is still lining up with your asymmetry. You're not going to want to go in and re-sculpt the asymmetry. You're going to want to go in and basically do like big like movement pulls and pushes, right? So that way you're not like messing the topology up too badly, and you're probably still going to have to go back through this one more time and just do a quick smoothing pass and aligning pass to do it. But you basically have it would save you a bit of time, I think, even if you have to go back and realign a little bit of stuff. I've done it both ways, so I'm not going to say one way is better than the other. It's just whatever works. If you're talking a big game like Uncharted 4 or something like that, or like anything, or if you're talking about that genre of game, you're looking, like I know the exact number, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to like betray any trust or anything, but you're looking mid-teens for a head like that. I would say above 12, under 15,000 polygons is a pretty standard number for next-gen characters. Just going around this nose here. And so I usually have like a line of topology between the edge of the nose and then the nasolabial fold here, and then I'll put one edge in between it like that. That way, like when you move around, like it's not like the normals aren't connected with that one. Yeah, it's minus hair cards. There would, if you have this line in between here, between the nasolabial fold and the edge of the nose, then you're not going to get stretching on those two normals, right? So you kind of need that in there. And one can go up this way. Let me do that from here. This way for now. Hair cards can be like upwards of like 10,000 triangles as well, right? Like they can be pretty expensive. I actually am going to do a quick revision here on this. So this card right here, I want to basically pull around like that and do this. So now the so you can see the star here. It was attached to this nostril, but now it's in the middle again, right? So again, when the face deforms, you're not going to get a bunch of weird stretching in there. You have to kind of separate that stuff out. And normally, like, it's easy to do the eyes. I mean, it's not easy, but like the hardest part is when everything comes together, right? So you get this big confluence of like edges coming together, and it oh, you'll see hair cards. You better believe it. I can't wait to do hair cards, which we're doing them right now. So as I was saying, you get this big confluence of edges kind of coming together in one area. What's just happened there? Shove that over a bit there. And now when I look at this star right here, I might want to move that to like a different edge, right? So this is like what I'm talking about, like when like stuff starts coming together, you might end up changing exactly how everything's working. Like maybe I want this edge here to kind of come up to the side of the nose instead of the other one. And then this becomes more like the secondary like kind of ridge here. So let's go here. There we go. So now the shape of the bottom of the nose here isn't just one flat poly. You get some roundness to it, which is nice. So let's try to go ahead and auto weld this here. And we'll need another edge there. Want to even this out a little bit. And I know we're going to need another edge coming down the side of this face here. It's not enough in the eye. So let's go ahead and throw that in there right now. It is a thread. You guys want the hair cards, and you're gonna hate the hair cards. Because like I can show you all day long how I do them, but it's gonna take like some serious effort on your guys' part to make them look good. Because it takes a long time. And I can show you the best way I know to like be able to alter them quickly, but it's the placing of them that takes a long time. So see, bring this nice fluff on the cheek now. I think the mouth's going to turn out really good. It's just that damn nose area that we have to go back to. Auto weld off. Go back up here and try to fill this in a bit. Smooth that out. I gotta move my keyboard. It's destroying my like shoulder. Alright, hold on a second. There we go. That's better. Here. And here. So that works out pretty good right there. See that? So the star's right here. All we did is move it over a little bit. Everything connects real nicely. A little aggressive on that smooth there, but that's okay. We can always push places back we need, so we want to make sure that that's there. That's on that line. Cool. I'm going to do a little loop around this filtrum area here, like so. Move this over, nice and straight. I think we should do another edge under the eye. And maybe one more goes up here. I think we have one too many edges maybe going around the nose here, so I'm just going to get rid of that for now and push this down a bit. So I'd rather have more edges going around the mouth than the nose, so if we need more here, let's see. Add one there, which actually is probably a good idea. It's pretty skinny there, how many edges we have. So now it's a little bit more even everywhere. The chin looks nice and squared up now, so I like that. We're going to get this down here a bit more. Just pull that down. Alright. Smooth that out so that's getting nice and square looking up there now. So just kind of catch that line there. Alright. We'll probably need another one coming out of like the side here. So now I'm starting to fill out some of these gap areas where I feel like the topology isn't really even. So as you can see, like, kind of look for it, like where's the, after you smooth it, what isn't like really square. In some places it's okay. Like I'm pushing these polys in here on purpose to try to catch some of these like lines. And if it's not perfectly square, it's okay. But for the most part, that's what I'm looking for. Is like nice even topology. See how that relaxed out better now? That extra line there. And it's more important up here that you have a nice grid. Than it is like back by the ear. It's not quite as important. There's not enough deformation going on there. That's pretty decent. So what I'll probably do is finish like this area of the face and maybe like do some like flow lines to the neck and the ear. I do have, that wasn't my workflow, Mari. That was their setup, their texture setup. Wait, why am I? Oh, weird. So I'll probably do like some of these little areas. I do have an example. So my friend Jared Vincent gave me an example of some head topology to use for class because he's currently making a like downloadable model. It's for a whole bunch of stuff, but what I'm using it for right now is to demonstrate topology. So I'll show you guys the finished one. It's really nice. And I'll give you his name and his what do you call it? ArtStation link and everything, and then just keep an eye on it for when it's ready when it's available. But so I'll probably do my UVs on that. So there's no way I'll be able to finish this entire head for a class demonstration, so I'll use his. But his topology is a little bit different than what I'm doing right now, but it's equally good. Like I said, there's all different kinds. Oh. They use common mesh. Alright, so here, 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 there. Alright, so that's all quadded out, but for some reason that one didn't take. There. So that's the side of the nose, pretty good. Not too dense. We want to make sure we get a nice amount of topology at the front of the nose here, because it's like pretty prominent facial feature, and you don't want to see like a lot of weird. You just don't want to see like a lot of faceting. And actually, let me delete this a little bit here. I want this flow. All right. So it's around the nostril there really nicely. from the butt of the nose here. We're going to need a line coming down here. It's just too faceted right now. So right there. Just straighten all this out a bit. Cool. Yeah, animators and riggers definitely have a lot of say in topo. Usually it starts with the artist, what they think is best and fits the character, and then they'll do some tests with it, and we'll be like, oh, we could not getting what we need here, and we should change this, or it needs to be denser, you know, it needs to have this. So there'll be tests, but a lot of times when you go to a studio, this phase will already be done, especially if you're working on a game like, you know, like Uncharted or something like that. They already have like a topo approved and in place. It kind of has to be there before you start making a lot of like art. It's like the R&D phase kind of thing. Sometimes you'll get lucky enough to be part of that. You'll learn a lot, but it's not always the case. Go back to the forehead before I finish that nose off, because I hate it. So I'm just kind of filling in the eyebrow area here. Okay. Just going to cut this out for a minute. Let's start connecting some stuff up here. Slide that guy over. Just continually trying to fill in these loops here. I'm going to push a lot of them up towards the brow, so I'm not too worried about it being really dense right here yet. It's the only bad thing about not Next Tools. The modeling toolkit doesn't like just like when it like actually like connects. It's sometimes a pain. Trouble that. Smooth that out so it's nice and quadded. Smooth this out right here a bit. So let's figure this out real quick right here. So I'm going to push this up a little bit toward the brow. And this up a bit more. up. So you can kind of force the topology where you need it to go. I feel like that's pretty accurate right there. Push it up a bit more. So now we're starting to get these lines coming down, right? Which is what we wanted. So and these lines coming around down a bit. And this sits right in there. Push this up. Push that up. Awesome. So you can see there's some areas here where, I mean, we can obviously continue to adjust. Let's see here, this. Jump another edge loop right there. Start bringing this down. Relax this out a bit. Oh, my keyboard's the worst. So I lost my friggin' Ergotron that I had my Cintiq set up on, and like broken, and they won't write me back, and it's really, really frustrating. I'm never going to buy an Ergotron product ever again. And I've written them like 3 times. Anyway, so I need to buy a new like holder basically for the Cintiq. Just buy a Wacom one because they're awesome. But currently it's like kind of a crappy setup. Took me a long time to break down and actually get a Cintiq. Like before, I was like, Intuos is just fine, and it is. So it's not something that everybody needs for sure. It's not like a necessity for this kind of stuff. It just helps with certain things. All right, so we're getting some nice loops around the eye here now. Go back. Push this into that red line there. And I put another loop right around the eyelid right here. So I like to have at least 2 loops inside the eyelid here. So if you see like these red lines, the one that borders the eyelid, right, and the bottom border of the eyelid and the upper border of the eyelid, I like to have like at least 2 in there between them, because it'll give you a nice, for one, it'll be able to unfold nicely, and 2, like even from like a silhouette, you're going to get a little bit of that like roundness to it. Is it hard to go back from a Cintiq? No. Where was it that I was using? I did have to jump back to an Intuos at some point. I can't remember why it was. Oh, it was when I moved to North Carolina, because my Cintiq wasn't here yet, and I had to jump back to an Intuos for a little bit. And it was weird for like the first little bit, but then I was like, oh, it's like, you know, no biggie. Got right back to it. But it's the same can be said when you first use a Cintiq. Like it's like weird drawing on the screen like that, which is why I was so hesitant to get one for so long, because I was like, I don't see the benefit of it. But then when I actually started going to work and they had one for me, I was like, oh, now that I'm used to it, I can see the benefit. It just took me, it'll take a couple of weeks to get used to it. I'm moving these guys down a bit here. like they're expensive, so I mean it's obviously like a little bit cost prohibitive for people. And it took me quite a while. Like I didn't get one. I didn't actually buy one until I started working at Naughty Dog. I never had one already done. I never used it. And then when I started, like I said, when I started working with it at Naughty Dog, I was like, I really want one of these at home now. So I just saved up and eventually got one. And plus, like, I mean, if you're working any like freelance or anything, you can use it as like, you know, tax write-offs and stuff like that because it is for a business. So it helps a bit. So I'm just trying to get this right up in there and keep it nice and smooth. So like I pushed topology around, but at the same time I want to keep, like if this is down here, then it kind of swings up and around. I want to keep the arc of these like curves that I'm doing smooth, right? Like you don't want any weird like jolting kind of like, you don't want something like, if this is nice and smooth here, you don't want something like that in your mesh, right? So even like when you wrap around things like the eye that have a lot of like curves to it, sometimes I'll purposely go off of that like edge just a little bit, just so I don't sacrifice too much of the smoothness of the topology, if that makes sense. Pros, cons of them. So Pro, Intuos, way cheaper, way cheaper. The only con I have for the Intuos, to be honest, the only con is that, well, there's two of them. For one, you're not getting the like actual, there's a step between your brain, right, drawing on the screen and like drawing on an Intuos and seeing it on the screen. But that very quickly goes, like when you use an Intuos, you don't even notice it, and I never noticed it. But with a Cintiq, it's like much more direct. But as far as like what you can actually produce work-wise, I feel like whenever I have to draw like a very accurate line, like if I'm doing like a seam or something like that, it's much easier to do that kind of stuff on a Cintiq because you're drawing right on it and you're not, like your brain doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm drawing, you know, my Intuos like slightly rotated on my lap, I'm drawing this line, you know, and it's doing one thing on the screen. So, and yeah, Intuos is very portable, so this Cintiq is not portable at all. The screens on Cintiqs are very nice. They're very nice screens. So that's a bonus. There's not, I mean, it's hard to explain. I think just going back now, I wouldn't want to, but I wouldn't say it's for everybody if it's expensive, just because like I said, like my art hasn't really gotten any better because of it. I may get like a little bit faster, and I may find some things easier, but it's not like, oh, I'm also better now. You know what I mean? It shouldn't do anything like that. If you do a lot of painting in like Photoshop, you know, things like that, it might. So I'm not speaking from a concept artist standpoint. I'm speaking from like a 3D kind of artist standpoint. Then maybe it would make a much bigger difference in quality. But even then, I'm not 100% sure. They look sweet. That's a bonus. Cintiq looks sweet. They look more than like, what's that? Man, Cintiq is good. Alright, so back into the eye here. So we just want to even out this stuff a little bit more. I got off track there for a minute. What time is it? I'll do another 15 minutes of this, and I'll show you Jared's topology. It's all said and done. And then we'll move on to UVs. So just pushing this up around and smoothing some more. So you can see now that the lower eyelid has much more like vertical spans than the upper, so I'm going to have to add some more in here to match that. More closely, I think I'll put like an extra 3. Again, back to smoothing everything out. You'll notice the forehead will get more squared up too from that. They're getting a little bit like elongated. A lot of times these eyelids too, you're gonna have to kind of go in, like the smooth helps, but you'll just have to go in and kind of manually move stuff and get it as even as you can. That's just the way the smoothing works, you know, like it'll average everything out, but then you'll lose like the placement on some of the lines and stuff, so you have to go in there and fix it. Up here. Right there. We can round some of these extra loops right here up around the eyebrow if we need to, which we'll probably do. So we probably don't need that many. I could probably do with one less vertical line going up the forehead there. So back to the problem solving, we could just easily go and say like, okay, well if this is the brow right here, right? So let's terminate one of these guys, just have it kind of go around. Something like that. So now we've gotten rid of one. Also, we have to put one extra one in there. So there's like trade-offs, but at least now you actually have a nice, also a nice like kind of like outline for this brow ridge here, which is nice. Also have to pull all this down, so not enough topology in there at all, or too much, not enough, sorry. There we go. Let me fix this. I don't like that exactly the way it is there. Just kind of smooth all this out. Get rid of that for now. Whoop. Solve this area before I start putting in extra fancy things. Alright. So again, trying to follow some of these like some of these wrinkles a little bit on the forehead as much as possible, just at least like the slope of them, you know, in the direction. Right now they're not directly on top of them, that's okay. We do want to make sure we have enough topology in this area because you get a lot of like creasing, you know, people furrow their brows and stuff. So actually what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab this whole mess here and just kind of bring it over this way a bit more. Be a little more front facing, so that should help a bit when it's furrowing. Add one more loop in there. Bring this down. So we're getting some pretty elongated polygons there. So the mouth corners, is it comfortable? Okay, let me get some of these questions here. Where am I? Cintiq and Ergotron arm for constant work. It wasn't bad. I used it in LA all the time, and it's pretty good. The only thing is like it bounces around because of the size of the Cintiqs, right? Like it holds them just fine, but they just bounce around a lot. I don't like that. I would say for a Cintiq, the best thing to get is just the, and it's kind of a bummer because the Cintiq stands are expensive, but they're by far like superior when it comes to holding a Cintiq than an Ergotron. And that's why I decided. I wish I just got one of those instead at the beginning. So I would like to go in there and smooth that out. I don't want to waste any more time just doing all that though, but I'm just going to do it anyway. But basically you guys get the picture of what goes on in the eye there. So you have, and then of course, I didn't go over this, so much to do with the face. So basically you're going to build that, right? And then kind of build up like the space between.
Hey, Adam.
Yo.
Sean had a question a bit earlier about the eyelid. Is it better to lower the eyelid before the retopo, so you can kind of spread out the quads, or just as you're doing it now?
So I usually just do it the way I do it now. I make sure that I have enough quads in there. You don't need a whole bunch. Usually like 3 or 4, right now I have like the 2 spans in the middle. So I have like 3 spans altogether, right? So like normally 3 or 4 should do the trick. If you were to spread out the eyelid, so how do we go about doing that? You'd have to go in ZBrush, put it on a layer. You'd have to go back in and reproject your topology onto you have to reproject your detail into the new topology, right? And then you'd have to export the layer, or I just don't know how you do that, right? Like how would you get the eyes back closed? You'd have to manually close them once you're done again. Does that make sense for everybody? Now there are ways to, let me think for a minute. So I've done stuff like this before. You could, so what you could do is, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm sure you could figure out a way to do it, but you're going to end up, because your eyelid closes on a layer, it might be kind of hard to get your base back without doing a second reprojection. It might just be more work.
Tion's got a suggestion, maybe just to have them closed for the original sculpt, and I suppose opening them when the animation starts or something like that.
I mean, you could close them for the original sculpt, but you're not going to have much luck getting stuff approved because art directors want to see stuff with eyes open, right? Like, you want to see the character as neutral as possible, and normally eyes closed, it's not really the best way to get that kind of stuff through the pipeline.
Okay, thanks. I think that answered it.
Yeah, no problem. So I just want to go in and kind of like add all the surrounding loops here. And I'll normally, after I get all these loops in here, or like this, not loops, but like this main like kind of line of faces all the way around, I'll go in and throw an extra loop around here like this, just to get some of that roundness again from the eyelid right there, which is nice. And like we've talked about before, you can build your chruncle right in here. Just like just bring these loops in and then kind of terminate them where you need to. Instead of doing that though, because it's minor, I'll just show you guys on the finished one. And back to this nose here. So just kind of go ahead and just bring it down. And then that's pretty good. Too big of a brush. Too big of a brush again. There we go. Bring everything forward a bit here. And another loop right there. So those actually worked out pretty good after all that. I do like that flow. You still get like this vertical here, but you are getting some of that horizontal, so it should deform better. The only thing I would change if I wanted to redo this all again, which I don't, I would possibly try to get this star out of there and push it back maybe a bit further, like up here. That way you get a nice continuous flow coming in this direction. So I just want to say that and make everyone aware that while I do like it, I would probably still mess around with it a bit more to get it exactly how I think it should be, but I think it's pretty close. So just always be aware of where you're putting these like stars and everything, because you don't want to have them mess up all the animations, right? And let's see here, what am I missing? One more loop. One more loop. So I'm just kind of trying to fill up this area. There. And then these extra loops will go a long way in front of the nose here, because right now it's too faceted still, so we can just smooth it out. Push it down a bit. smooth everything out. And spend some time, obviously, like you want to make sure all your lines are in the right spot so that when you bake, the goal is that when you bake, if you have a crease on your high poly model, like the nasolabial fold, like say, like right there, is that edge falls directly on top of it, right? That's the whole goal. That way you don't get as much stretching when it animates. If you like do a smile or something like that, it lands in the right spot. So after I get the topology done, I tend to go through this whole pass of like lining up things again, because stuff does tend to shift around when you're smoothing everything. And then so you're going to want to bring all the stuff a bit more forward, right? Because it's not even anymore. And of course, go back in. It's kind of a bit of a back and forth. And smooth that out. And smooth. Bring this one out here. A bit closer. Put another loop there, another loop there. Let's bring this one down a bit. End up with another loop across the face right there. And bring some of these up a bit on the bridge of the nose. Obviously, I'll have to go in and like align that nose loop up there a bit better. But you can see why I try to start low now, because you end up adding all these loops to get what you need. It can be, you can end up with like a lot of stuff if you're not careful. So this really wants to push back. Oh, it's in the nice spot. I was trying to use the wrong edge for the nasolabial fold there. There we go. That's more like it. So you can see it gets pretty clean with a little bit of like zhuzhing and smoothing around here. Obviously, I have to go in and just make sure we hit that lower eyelid there. Push this back up here. We might put one more loop around there. So like, it's a balancing thing. That's generally a pretty good flow for that area of the face. Now for the lips, you notice I've left them. Hold on a second, let me adjust my sitting. There should be a similar number of quads above the eye as below, because when you close, you don't want like weird like facets. It helps. If it's not exact, it's not like a deal breaker, but I try to get pretty close. So like that's one thing I would do too. I'd go and look at this after, and it's easier to change the loops on the forehead than it is like, you know, going through the face here. So like I try to usually make sure I'm happy with all this area, and then, you know, if I need to delete a loop or add a loop up here, I'll just do that. And then the mouth. So what I do for the mouth, let me do that real quick so everyone understands. It's kind of a pain. I will normally, let's grab this guy. It's actually easier if you don't decimate, but I pretty much always decimate, so I just have to do it this way. But I'll duplicate them, and then I'll just like select a face down here and expand it. And then basically, let's make sure I don't got too much upper lip. I don't. Okay, and delete that. All right, and then let's go. So now I have like this upper lip kind of thing, and I don't really want this mouth either. Now, just delete that. Looks pretty decent. Okay, so I'll get rid of a bit more mouth here actually. A little too much upper lip there. So basically, you're going to break your model into three, an upper, a lower, and then the whole model. All right, so that's basically what I'm doing right now. So I'll end up duplicating it again. Just delete everything we don't see. Oh, too much again. Damn it. All right, so here's that. Now I'll go back to this, and let's hide this guy for now, and make this our dude. And then we can go in more easily, work on the mouth. But just to let you guys know, it's never going to be like easy. You're always going to have some areas in the corner of the mouth that are really hard to get to. So like I'll even end up breaking up like this model, like the low poly model, like I'll grab this edge and break it and then have two different models, and then do the top only. Actually, I'll just do it right now. So mesh tools, detach, and mesh, separate. I'll just hide this guy. So now we'll just do this area. Just gonna go in. Right here you can see where there's some problems. We can fix that. So it makes it much easier to work. So what happens with this, like this is pretty straightforward the way I break it up, just upper and lower. It gets a little more tricky when you have to combine the two low polys back. So just be aware that eventually what will happen is you'll have to go in, like you'll recombine your low poly mesh, and then you'll just kind of isolate the little corner of the mouth, and you'll look at it, and you'll see like the verts don't line up. So you'll just have to go back in and merge the verts up, and then just kind of make sure that they're not like all like wonky. Like make sure that when you add them, one's not like way over here, one's not like way over there. Like you just want to keep that nice smooth look to it. And I'll show you the corner of the other mesh in a minute, corner of the mouth. So I think you did a good job there, if I remember correctly. And it's just using these techniques. Just kind of go in. And a place, okay, so someone asked earlier about triangulation. A place that I do commonly triangulate is once I wrap around the lips here, right? I'll wrap them around up to like maybe like way up here. Still other pieces of crap. I'll probably bring them all the way in, right? And then wrap them up here and then start working down towards the actual like gums and mouth bag. Actually, not the gums, just like the mouth bag. I think this model has like weird stuff built in, like the tongue and everything. Normally, I wouldn't have that, and I'll show you the other model in a minute. But then you can start triangulating with the mouth bag because no one will ever see it, and really all it does is just catch light, right? Like it doesn't really contribute a whole lot to the look. It just, as long as it's against the teeth, it doesn't matter what your normals are like, as long as they're not crazy jacked up, and you can triangulate all you want there. It's just as long as you have enough topology in like the corner of the mouth where it's not triangulated, and then the back of the lips here. That's about it. But I'll show you an example. So that's kind of how I do the mouth. And again, like I'll want to make sure that like the spans don't spiral. So whatever like this span is has to connect to the bottom one and go all the way around. Pain. Actually, I don't want that there because that attached to the bottom. You want to look out for any lumps and bumps. You don't want to add a bunch of like weird stuff. It's okay too for the lips. Like as you build them around here, there's something called sticky lips that is in a lot of like. This is super annoying. A lot of like rigs and stuff now. Yeah. And that's just like when your lips kind of stick together when they start to open. So to actually get that to work, you need the topology to support it. So a lot of times you'll see like some extra loops in the mouth for that sort of thing. So for instance, like I'd probably put an extra loop here and an extra one there, and then just just so there's enough topology, and then smooth it out a bit. But there might be a little more topology than you'd expect just in those areas, even if because it seems like it's hidden inside the mouth. Why would you ever see that? That's why like you have just a couple loops there to get some of those like super small, like subtle deformations. Maybe add one more around here. That looks pretty good. I guess we could probably tie this off here. Right, and then you can just kind of like continue the flow on the inside of the nose. Another place you can triangulate, like when you get up here in the nostril, there's no reason not to triangulate up there. It's not going to hurt the quality of any animations by not triangulating there. Get it? There we go. Cool. So then I would do the same thing with the bottom mouth and then connect them all. But that's basically how I do the lips. Another place you can triangulate is like inside the eyeball here. Like you don't want to just leave it open. You're going to want to, like, bring your topology in. And I can, again, I'll show you the other model in a minute, but like bring your topology in there and triangulate it up. And then you can triangulate, if your character has hair, you can triangulate up here and reduce polygons. And I do triangulate like a little bit in the ear hole here. It's just things like that. So I will show you now Jared's head so you guys can get an idea of like a final topology. And then I'll grab his head out and I'll start doing some quick UVs for him because he doesn't have UVs on this model. So let me pull my ZBrush open over here. Move it over. All right. So here's his model that he gave me permission to show you guys. It's a female model. I'm just going to show you the head. He's done the whole body, but there's no reason to really go into that right now. So you can kind of see the flow of it. And he has some really nice flow like around the little caruncle area here, and you can kind of see how it goes in. Then he has some triangles up in the eyes here. So you can see how low the density of polygons is in the eye sockets. That's what you want to do. You don't need a high density polygon back there. The flow over the ear, you can kind of see how it like rounds around here, and then the ear doesn't have a lot of deformation, so really all you're trying to capture is just like the shape. Whoop. And then you can see how the neck is pretty gridded. Right? It doesn't really like follow the sternomastoid. Following the sternomastoid can sometimes be a pain if you have someone with like a chubby neck, because then you have like this this basically built-in like diagonal shape here. And if someone has like kind of like, if you're sharing like topology for heads and someone has like a chubbier neck, then that's really going to hurt it. So we found that the most universal topology for shared heads is definitely like this gridded type deal with a little bit of the clavicle, or whatever you want to call that, like a little divot built in there. And then let's see. So you can see he did his nose a little different than mine, but this is very standard, very good way of doing it as well. And you still do have some of that diagonal, some of that diagonal flow there. Let's see. And again, you can see that he has a few like loops around the thickness of the eyelid and up and around here in the top eyelid. And let's look at the mouth. So you can see how he's triangulated in here to save polys, because there's no reason to have a bunch of polys. Let me do the display double. There's no reason to have a bunch of polys like inside of the mouth, right? Like you do want to keep some of them in the inner lip, just like I said, so you can get some of those like subtle deformations, but as far as like the inside mouth bag part, you don't need that. It can be pretty low. And you can see you don't build the teeth or gums in there. It's a bag. The teeth and gums are always a separate mesh. Yeah, he is going to put it up for sale. This is just the beginning kind of stages of it. Like he's doing some really accurate models and texturing, like high-res texturing. And then I believe all the UVs and topology for them, and then putting them up for sale, so people will have like a base model to kind of do stuff. And he's doing more than that, but like he's part of this group. He just doesn't talk. I told him not to, but he gets to kind of see what we're working on. So I told him, I was like, dude, if I control this model, then feel free to talk about it after. So he might be posting if you guys have any questions for him about exactly what his final thing is going to be. His name is Jared Vincent. I'll type it right here. Jared Vince. I used to work with him at Ready. I went to school with him. I worked with him at Ready at Dawn, and then now he works at Boss Key. So we kind of follow each other around the country. It's kind of funny, but and Boss Key's in Raleigh, which is right like 20 minutes from me. So yeah, he's working on this, and it's like his it's like a side project, and it's actually really cool. Some of the stuff he showed me with it. So yeah, eventually, like you'll be able to buy this and use this topology if you want. It'll be really good. And he's talked to me a bit, about like we've collaborated a little bit. Like this is his project, not mine, but we have collaborated a little bit on just like best ways to do UVs for like something that people might want to purchase or like use for their own projects, kind of thing. So it should be a really good like place for people to learn or like get certain things that aren't really available right now. So yeah, but he'll probably it's not for sale yet, but he might like talk to you. Like don't be surprised if you see him like post on this on our forum because he's part of it. Okay, so cool. So let's just grab this head and let's do the UVs on it. Let me go ahead and just grab. And obviously I could have just showed you this head right off the bat and say like, hey, do this, but I wanted to show you guys like the workflow and the problem solving stuff. Because that's really what it comes down to, is learning how and why things are, like if I just showed you this, be like, do this, but you wouldn't know why you're doing stuff. Like you want, and if I actually, I think he's reprojected this already. Yeah. So if you kind of go in and look, like you'll see that like on her like nasolabial fold here, right, where's the details? Not a whole lot of details in this one yet. If you see like nasolabial fold where it's going to go in the polyframe, like you can see how it follows it like perfectly. That's like the whole point, right? So when you bake it, you will get like everything lining up one to one. And then I'll make sure that like I finish my topology. Like I promise I'll finish my topology and then bake it so you can see what I'm saying. So I want to texture my guy too, and I don't want to texture it on bad topology. So all right, so let's export this head here. It also depends on your character how far down you want to bring like the neckline. Like I know on some of the characters I've worked on at games, like the neckline comes down a lot farther because everyone's wearing like t-shirts and stuff. If you don't have that on your model, then there's no need to, right? Like just make it as far down as you need to. There's no like right or wrong way. So let's do head for UV. Alright, so let me hide this stuff here. I'm going to keep this though. So I want to keep my topology. Let's go file new. All right. Yeah, I would. Like for my final model, I would definitely delete the rest of the body. Like the only reason you have that body is to sim clothes on, and if you don't see it in your final model, then just delete it. That's why I said don't do too much detail on it, because you probably won't see it anyway. Oh, this coffee's good. It's good coffee. When I was a kid, you guys don't care about this, I'm telling you anyway. When I was a kid, I hated Sundays. So I was like, man, I have to go back to school on Monday. It's the worst. But now I'm grown up and, well, kinda, and I like my job, and Sundays are sweet. Like, it's such a weird, like, thing. Oh, I can't wait to go figure out things at work tomorrow. Drink coffee. All right, so how I start to do the head, it's the same as I did, like, last week. So when you want to start, like starting from scratch, you basically got nothing, right? Coffee! And you want to do a, at least my method of it is to do a planner. You can do camera, or you can do whatever axis is down camera, so is that axis. All right, so it's just starting like that. And a lot of times, what I will do, let's take this and let's dupe it, all right, and just work on that duplicate model for now. And so I've heard in the new Maya 2017 is actually a really awesome symmetry brush that I want. So this might be obsolete for some of you to have 2017, but I'm just gonna go through it anyway. Stupid milk bag. Let's go in here and get that. All right, so I'm just gonna delete half the head. All right, we're just gonna work on half of it. And then we'll do a transfer attributes by topology when we're all done, because we'll duplicate it back and sew it. So what I'm gonna do is basically let's cut this up. Usually the best way to start is to cut it in the corner of the map here and try to bring it all the way back. Actually, I want to cut it right there. Let's see where this line brings us. We can cut it there. That works. It's not quite the corner, but it's close enough. And then let's go ahead and pop around this ear, pop that ear off. Oh, Jared, I love you for making. See that he made that loop? This is the stuff he was thinking about when he made it. See how I double-clicked that loop and went all the way around the ear? That's a good thing. Normally ears are all over the place, so he thought about that when he made it. And let's see if we can do the same thing with the eye. We can. Nice. Nice. I'm actually going to get a little bit closer in though. Maybe right here. I just want to go all the way around. Does it? Oh, it does. Sweet. Okay, so I'm going to cut that eye out. I'm going to cut the inside of this nose out, so I don't care about that. Actually, not that loop. It's too far out. Let's grab this one. Okay. So let's just cut that right now. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Maya UVing tools, this is 2016, like I said. 2016, what do you call it, number 2, extension 2. And then my main tools of choice are this little split guy right here. So it'll separate islands when you have edges selected. So I'll use that, and then you can just select your UV and to shell and move out what you don't want, right? Again, here's this, here's the ear, here's the nose. Now, I know someone had mentioned last class that they didn't have these tools. That's a bummer. If you don't have these tools, you can always go to Tool, I believe it's Unfold UV tool. Where did that open up? Let me see where that opened up. Open up somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Or not. Tool. Oh, it's my brush. Weird. It's not really what I was wanting. So there is an Unfold UV tool, which is not what I was looking for. Is Smooth UV tool? Yes. So there's a Smooth UV tool. I used to use this quite a bit before I had the other things. And what you hold on. Oh yeah, let's turn off the plugins. That's a bummer. But I'm glad you fixed it. If you don't have that for some reason or another, you can use this tool, Smooth UV tool. You can do by UV space, world space. Sometimes I'll still actually use this because it's nice, but if you hit apply, it gives you like this little slider here, and you can unfold it. So you can see again here, so unfold. It's doing similar things, but just it's not quite as intuitive. So I tend to use this brush now. So you can just select everything, and then start with this, which is the Unfold UV tool. So it's the same as this tool, Unfold UV tool, and it'll unfold stuff for you. So let's see what we got. So we got the inner eye, looks pretty good. This is the ear, I believe. Yep. And then we got the nostril. So once you unfold everything, and I'm not happy with this ear yet, but once you unfold everything, you're going to want to optimize it, and that's this button under here. It would have been cool if they just made it like a hotkey, like if you just had one button and it was shift to unfold, or like default unfolded and hold shift to like optimize, but it's two different buttons. Anyway, so, and this will just make sure if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it's doing. It's going to even out spacing between UVs. So let's go ahead and do that. You'll see the differences. So even out spacing a bit. Okay, here, here, that's normally how I start my models. And you're probably also going to want to throw the checker board on here so you can kind of see the checker on. If you look in the eye, inside the eye is pretty good. The ear's kind of stretchy around there, but we can probably have to add some like cuts in there just to like help it relax a bit. So what I mean by that is we'll go in and just kind of grab like, where can we hide things, right? So we can probably go ahead and do, for now, let's just cut right here. Actually, let's go ahead and cut right through there. All right, make sure we deselect that. We'll add a cut. That'll help it expand a little better. We might get rid of that cut later, but for now it's just going to help it like relax a lot better. So you turn your checker back on, you can see it's a lot less stretched in that area now. There's also some stretching back here, but you're going to get some stretching no matter what. So like I said, Ricard, in 2017, I think there's a really cool symmetry brush where you just do one side and then you brush the other side of the head and it kind of just does it for you, which is insane. So I have to check that out. But normally what I've done in the past and what I do now is I'll do one side of the head and I would just duplicate it back and flip the UVs, right, so they're symmetrical, and then I would then transfer UVs from this head back to my original head based on topology. The only reason I have to do it based on topology is because the vert orders change, so I can't do it based on component, if that makes sense. So I'll do a little bit of these UVs here, and then I'll try, we've got 40 minutes still, so we should be able to get pretty far. UVs normally for a head like this would take me, a while. It'd take me like an afternoon to get them like really good. What did I just do? Let me check this off. What do we got going on here? So it looks like we still got the top of the mouth by accident. I want to cut that. So if you just want to cut across like an edge, you can just select an edge and go to UV edge loop. For some reason that didn't work. Oh yeah, it did. It was just slow. Let's see if we can cut that off there. Again with the split tool. Why aren't you cutting? Oh, sorry, I deselected that one mistake. Whoop. Oh my god. So ridiculous. To UV edge loop. There we go. Cut that. I should be able to grab the shell. Just move it. Do the same thing down here. To UV edge loop. Cut. Alright. Let's re-unfold this guy. That's creepy. Awesome. Okay. Now I will probably cut, let's see, the back of the head off somewhere where the hair will hide it. So let's do 2 edge loop again. So we're going to do a seam here, which is fine for now. Whether or not we end up with that seam, or we're either going to end up with a seam or some stretching, right? So it just depends on what we choose. All right. So here's her head. Now what I'm going to do is right now she's unfolded basically like sideways, and this is probably the most optimal way based on stretching. You can unfold it like sideways, but normally when you're painting a face, right, you don't want UVs like this. You want to be able to paint, like you want to paint the face like as you would, picture a standard UV layout, like straight on, right? So I'm going to go ahead and grab this edge. All right. And then I don't want all this right now. Get out of here. And I think I just need to pick like where I want this to start. So let's say that's where her hairline starts, like right there. All right. Okay. And I'm just going to go to UV, and I'm going to pin it. These are pinning buttons right here. Straight, right? And then shift select all of it. So everything is selected except for the pin side. And then go ahead and re-optimize. All right. And then, there we go. You can see it's still iterating, so it takes a little bit sometimes. So now by looking at this, and like I don't expect you guys to be able to see this right off the bat, but when I look at this, I see that this part of her head is taking up a lot of space in a UV sheet, and it's going to want to unfold all this area back out this way. But I want to keep it like square. So I'm going to do, and this is where some stretching will happen. Hold on, let me turn my, turn this to surface. All right. So I would prefer to add stretching to this head, especially a head with hair, right, or a head with a hat on, as opposed to like a lower amount of space used, like more seams and a lower amount of space used for the UV layout. So I'm just going to kind of pull this down for now. So all right, I'm going to go back and select this, these areas. To shell border, invert, and again just kind of relax it out. So these aren't probably going to be my final borders or anything, but they're just a way to start pushing it to where I want it to go. I want it to go my way here, so I'll push this down a bit too. All right, and back to shell border. Invert it, and then again just kind of soften it out there. So if we check the UVs now, right, you can see that it's pretty good. You can see where the stretching is occurring a little bit right here, right, because we're bending it, and a little bit on the back here. But it's not like to the point where it's like out of control, right? And especially since it's on the back of the head, not that big of a deal. So I'll turn that back off again. Okay, we can grab this area over here. And what I want to do here, and what I normally do, is the same thing here. So I'm going to go to shell border. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select it this way, like so, and then deselect her up here. So we want this in the middle too, right? So just the middle area, and then go ahead and do a pin up to UVs first, sorry. All right, and there's one step I did forget to do. Normally when you pin something like that, remember that our original unfold was based on like, it unfolded as optimal as possible, but now I've just shot everything to one side, so you might be able to get it a little better if you do like an unfold vertical at this point. So if you just go vertical here and make sure your iterations are up nice, hit apply. Yeah, see how it just changes a little bit, but it's a little more optimal for having that pinned the way it is. So let's go ahead and do this. And unfold. Oh, it's doing a good job. Cut this one. There we go. Better. You see it's collapsing on its ear a little bit. That's fine. We can always go in there and handle that, edit it back into place. I'm going to do a quick unfold vertical here and see what happens. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay, so let's go back up here. So you can see there's where the cheek should attach there, and it's not, obviously not attaching. So we're going to try to attach that cheek. You get free Maya for non-commercial. I know teachers and students can get it for 3 years. I'm not sure if you're, other than that, if you're not an educator or a student, I'm not sure if you can or not. I'm a teacher. Oh yeah, yeah. I figured I forgot that after you said that. They don't verify. They don't really. It's like the honor system, I believe. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew these two sides together. So to do that, I'm just going to do a quick move and sew. All right, so it does that. You know, I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is just sew polygons, sew UV edges. So it's going to stretch it way out there. That's fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab these areas here. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to move these up a little bit. So that's a bit closer. All right. I'll go ahead and grab this area, this area, this area, that area, and go back in and grab too much, grab too much. No. Deselect this. There. Now go back in and kind of see what it wants to do to me. There we go. It's better. So now you can go ahead and, you know, grab this, and if you need to, you can pull it out a bit more. Like so. And if you want to be able to connect the back of the head again, so if you say you don't want a seam there, you can do that. So let's do that. Let's do move and sew. Let's do sew. All right. Nice. Looking pretty good there. I tend to use some of these tools up here a little bit too, the UV lattice tool or the move tool, which is nice. No, not move tool, sorry. Lattice. So you can kind of rearrange things a little bit. Like soft, it's kind of like a soft move brush, but it's nice. So just in case you need to, like, you know, fit into the square a bit better here, which we probably will. Shrink it up a bit. And I want to try to get this right in there. So you can see right now that it's not fitting the way we really want into our sheet, but this is like the first step, so that's okay. Select them, I select all the edges again, shell border, like so. No, not the mouth, not the nose. I'm going to pin it like that, so it's all even now. Let's go ahead and grab the insides. Let's do another unfold here. So it should go right up against there. See what it's doing here. Oh, it's doing weird stuff with the mouth. I'm gonna unselect this mouth for now because I still have to go ahead and sew the rest of that mouth together. But I'm just gonna go ahead and do that a little bit there. Would you keep the tongue and gums if you were to retopple your first head all the way? Would I keep the tongue and gums, or would we retopple the first head all the way, or would you change it? You mean the tongue and the gums as part of my topology? Like a continuous topology here? No, I would get rid of it. I always have the tongue and gums as a separate mesh. Always. So you said the Nix model has the it has it separate or it doesn't? It's included, right? Like it's connected, I thought. If it is connected, I would not keep it that way. Yeah, I wouldn't. You can keep the tongue in the mouth, like, I guess if you want, but like it just makes it more difficult. Like I've always built assets based on like I want to be able to reuse this tongue somewhere else or something. So like I normally wouldn't have those kinds of things like connected. Okay, I'm going to sew some of these UV edges. This is where sometimes this other tool will come in handy, the smooth UV tool that I was talking about earlier. If you just want like little iterations, you can kind of just smooth it a little bit, you know? So it's not like all or nothing, which is nice. But something I do like to do with the mouth before I get too far, and it's starting to already cause me trouble, is I like to even everything out and take up as much space as possible. So I'm going to pin this up, and I will, you don't have to pin this down because it's pretty, but I will just try to get it a little bit closer here, or something like that, and then bring all these corners in. And then what we're going to do is like relax everything around them. Move this out here. So while I'm doing this, because I know we're not going to be able to cover clothes like right now, is the key to clothing is laying out your UVs as if they're a pattern, right? So like you want, like if you're doing sleeves, right? They're going to go vertically, and just look at patterns online, or look at like other. If you look at like a striped shirt online, you can basically see which way they've laid the pattern out, right? Like by the direction of the stripes. That's what you're trying to achieve, is something like that. That way the fabric grain and everything goes in the right direction. So they're not really hard. You kind of want to keep everything nice and quadded as much as possible again, and even. And I tend to cut in like extra edges and triangles on clothes. Like I don't mind putting triangles on clothes at all. Like I'll put them quite a few places, and especially, this is such a mess down here, especially when I'm trying to outline like different like folds that are like kind of part of the silhouette. Like I'll definitely add in some extra edges and stuff for that. So just kind of working on the mouth here. Just like that. So now we have a nice mouth. So let's grab the shell border and invert that. And now we can kind of go in and relax everything around there. Well, the brush is huge, so it should relax it pretty nice. No, it's pushing it too far. I hate when it does that. Let's see if we can use the unfold tools. Let's do world space. That's better. Even space is sucking. So that's actually pretty good, and then obviously I'll take some manual cleanup just to get rid of any weirdness going on in there. It's kind of, this area is a little bit of a pain to get just right. But the good thing is that it's in the very inside of the mouth, like the very corner, so it is hard to see when you get too much stretching or anything. And just the nature of UVs, like once he starts talking, it's probably going to stretch a little bit anyway, so. So just a little manual work here. That looks pretty good. So I'm okay with that. You can see how small some of those faces are there. So I'm going to go ahead also and grab this and unfold vertically. So that kind of relax it down there. Shell border again. Get this face a little bit more. Oh. Come on. Why is it doing that? Oh, it's so annoying. Screw you, Maya. Come on. all of a sudden. All right. All right, so let's just go ahead and do a quick relax there. You can see we're getting pretty far with these UVs here. They're actually going along pretty well. So I want to go ahead and start to add, let's get the ear in there, because it's going to take up some space. And this eye's pretty small, doesn't need to really take up any space, go in the top corner. And again, the nostril's pretty small, can just go wherever. And inside the mouth doesn't need very much space at all, space is just going to be like red. So maybe we put that like at the bottom here, like that. Now if I hit, let's go ahead and grab this. Just actually, let's go ahead and grab here and just kind of push this in. All right. So trying to give as much space as possible. So what we need to do now, if we look at, this is important, if we look at the face, you can see that, you know, the neck has a lot of like texture resolution, but the face doesn't have that much. So we want to actually have the face take up more than it really, goddamn chair, than it really needs to. So that way we're going to get like, you know, nicer, like what you see first isn't the neck or the top of the head. You see like the nose, the lips, the eyes, right? So you want to give that a little more resolution without adding too much stretching. So let's go ahead and just grab this face here. Kind of just fold it out. I'll have to do some more relaxing, obviously. Hope they're going to like it. Stretch the size of this here. So that'd be a good start. W, and turn that off so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. What? Let me unselect all of these extra little pieces here. I don't want the border. I just want the inside part. It's not working the way I want it to work at all. No, I lost all my selections. There. It's working a little bit. Fold a bit more here. This is why I like this unfold tool, because it is like you can just do a little bit at a time. And obviously there's some cleanup, but it's getting kind of what we want here. No, not you guys. Let's go ahead and do another vertical unfold. There's that. Oops, too much. Just the neck there. Okay. So let's just even some of this stuff out again. Oh, it's killing me. Stop selecting the whole thing. Pin back and go. Pin forward. Right. So that's just kind of averaging stuff out a little bit. How do I decide if there's too much stretching? I look at the checker and I think of like, try to picture like, is it paintable, right? Like, because you won't see the stretching really that badly. Say you're painting in 4K and there's some stretching going on in your model, you're not going to see it when you're painting on the model. Like, that's not where the stretching. If you were hand painting it like a flat in Photoshop, it would be hard to compensate for stretching, right? Because you'd be painting on a stretched UV surface. So that would be difficult. But if you're 3D painting like in Mudbox or Mari or whatever painter, you're not going to notice it. The only time you'll notice it is really when it LODs or if your textures are like start dropping. So if you paint at like 4K and then drop down to like 512, the stretching will become like way more apparent. So that's what you kind of just have to be careful of. So like, but this amount of stretching, you can see on the face here, some of these long ones, it's not bad. Like, this is pretty bad at the back, but again, it's at the back of the head that's planned. I've planned it that way. The neck's a little bit long, but again, it should be fine. Get a little bit of like stretching around here. My main concern always though is like this, just this face area right here. I can handle stretching in other areas without too much problem. There's no like hard or fast rule like, hey, like you can only stretch this much or else it's broken. Like, the best solution I would say is like, if you're really concerned about it, if you think there's a lot of stretching, you could always you know, do a quick paint job and just check it, res it down and see if you can see the stretching, or if not. Now we're getting some nice unfolding, and this will help with some of the stretching too. So you can see how I kind of jump back and forth between like, I definitely want the face to be like higher res than the neck and everything. Not to the point where like you see like a distinct break in the texture, but like if it's a gradual resolution change, it's not really, oh my god, it's not really noticeable. Like if I were to say have a seam across the neck here and then make the neck real small and there's a big like chunk in resolution change, then that would be bad. But this, it's not. It just kind of gradually stretches up under the neck here and you'll never notice that. And then of course, another thing you want to do is with the eyelid here, you're going to want to kind of bring these down. You could, before you do the UVs, if you really want, do the eyelid closed on a layer, and then do the UVs on the closed eyelid layer. That makes sense. Because it would make this process a bit easier here. whole eyelid. But again, for like, if you're just doing stuff for your portfolio, this kind of stuff isn't super necessary. This is if you are actually at a studio right now and you're like trying to figure out like how to do something. You're gonna want to, it's usually better to close the eyelids for the UV process. Then more there. Just kind of shift everything down a bit. Let's grab our other UV tool. Smooth UVs again. That actually works. Yeah. To world. I want to do something. So, I mean, I can go back and forth and relax this until I'm happy with it. It just takes time. It's not bad. It's not bad. Let's got some bottom ones here. So obviously this is why I was saying it'd be easier to do it if I had already unfolded it or already closed the eyelid on a layer. So I think it's definitely easier to reproject before you close the eyelid, but once you reproject, you're free to do like a whole bunch of stuff like asymmetry, things of that nature, closing eyelids, opening mouths. All right, so that's basically the head UV layout. That will get you pretty far, and the face has more resolution than like other parts, which is good. So it's a little bit optimized there. Now, what I was saying before is let's go ahead and let's make sure shell border to UV. Now, without the symmetry brush, this is how I've always done it. Just kind of have the head pin it to the 50% line there. Oops. Actually, an easier way to do that is just kind of grab this first and do this. So I don't want to push it over on itself. So let's get nice and close to that line. All right. Now let's do the shell border. Okay. Let's just first just make sure everything's like that, and then to that line. Come on. Oh, you stupid thing. So I want to snap to it, of course. I have to go to where is that? World. There we go. World space will snap it. Sometimes if you have that problem, that will fix it. Let me read this question real quick. Can I read that one more time? Major wrinkles, retopo, tertiary details. I've always done, okay, so I don't want to, my goal isn't to confuse you, and I know a lot of this stuff can be confusing, and the reason I don't always have like the exact answers because there's lots of ways to do this, and it's whatever is you're most comfortable with, but my workflow has always been like sculpt, right? Get the art director's approval for that head that I'm doing, okay? So like I'll do the primary, secondary, tertiary. I usually end up doing like all the asymmetry because they want to prove anything until I have the asymmetry in there, right? And they're like, okay, that looks like an awesome head. That's what we want for our game. I'm like, cool. Head, high poly head, approved. And then I will go into Maya I will do the all the UVs, or not the UVs, the topology, right? And then I'll jump back into ZBrush and reproject it, right? So everything's, like I said, like everything's already done. The sculpt's done. Like asymmetry's done. Like tertiary details are done. Do the low poly in Maya. Bring it back in. Reproject everything, right? Make a new layer, okay? Close the eyes, open them up in that new layer, and then you can bring that like low poly back out with the new, like you can export your low poly again with the eyes closed, mouth open, and do the UVs on that, okay? Or actually, I would suggest doing the UVs on eyes closed, mouth closed, right? So that you don't really want to have the stretching of the mouth open in your UVs. So then do your UVs on that, and then you can just re-import your head in ZBrush. You have all the UV stuff and everything, and then you bake onto that eyes closed, mouth open kind of thing. So does that help? Jay? Oh, makes sense? You don't know? All right. Well, like honestly, dude, like you're gonna want to. I wouldn't worry so much about the exact steps. I think the easiest way to do it would be do all the high poly, and then when you're happy with your model, then work on the low poly. And when you're happy with that, then do the UVs. Right? I think that would be the best way to do it. Jumping around can maybe sometimes save you like half an hour here and there, like if you were to do like say the asymmetry later, but it makes your workflow more complicated, I feel like, and when you have people that are over your shoulder or like looking at your art, it's really hard to sell someone on something that isn't done. It's really hard to get someone to sign off on like your model if you haven't added like the tertiary details or the asymmetry. And then you're going to want to do, and then if you do your low poly for that unsigned off model, you might really regret it later, right? Because what if they change it, right? What if they change it and you're like, well, now my low poly doesn't fit, and that was a waste of time. So it's kind of good to break it into like steps like that. So my advice to you is just do your whole high poly. When you're happy with it, then do your low poly. When you're happy with that, then do the UVs. That would be generally the best way to do it. There's my dog barking at people outside. All right, so I'm going to duplicate this now. All right, and then let's negative scale it. Ah, damn. Hold on a second. Let me go ahead and modify center pivot. So now duplicate. All right, so now I got both heads. You shouldn't really have major folds around joint areas. So normally stuff like knees or elbows, you're going to try to get rid of most folds on those areas. And then topology is generally either like kind of a loop that kind of just like hugs it a little bit, like so like an upside. So say you have a knee, I'll draw it in Photoshop real quick, but say you have a knee, you kind of have a loop that goes around it, or you'll just do horizontal edge flow, horizontal, vertical, and gridded edge flow. You might have a couple extra loops in there to help deformation, but generally you don't want to have like big folds or anything around the elbow or the knee. You want to have them to be pretty flat, pretty close to like the fold surface, because it'll look weird when they bend if you have folds baked in, right? So let's grab the UVs of this dude. And let's go ahead and insert. So the insert key will make it so you can move your pivot. This always takes me a little while to do for some reason, I don't know why. Insert. And then let's go ahead and flip these guys. That's so stupid. That's why I don't like this stupid, sometimes insert key bugs me, because you'd think that when it would remember your, what you call it, where you put your pivot, but apparently does not. Only for like UVs, like UVs are stupid. Just go ahead and bring it back. All right. insert. Oh, so annoying. Bring it over. Oh, see, I didn't fix that mount. That needs to be fixed as well. Now, insert, I should do it. I've had both selected, I guess, which is pretty awesome. Oh my god, it's so annoying. Alright, so I'll snap this over here. So now they're symmetrical, as you can see. I'd still have to do the same thing for the, just have to flip these guys over as well. Not sure which side I'm on here. But I'm not going to do it like the same way. I'm just going to move them over manually to save time. Wrong button. There. There we go. Let's pop those guys over. Alright, so now I shall select this and this. Mesh combine. Alright, and this is bugging me right here, so I'm going to grab these UVs and do a quick unfold. And we'll do a horizontal. Before I don't want those middle ones there. There we go. So now what we got to do is we got to go ahead and sew this guy back together. So he's already combined. Let's do a select using constraints on the next vertices on border. Alright. Now let's do an edit mesh. Do a merge. Okay, should be good. Let's go inside on border again. Just make sure we got them all. We do. Alright. Now I'm just going to kind of go through the middle here. Now this is going to kill the symmetry on it, so you have to be like, you're going to want to be careful what you select. You want to select it symmetrically. So I can't wait for this new symmetry brush in Modex. This is always a pain to do this. It's a little bit time consuming. So I'm just doing it fast here, but like basically to get the symmetry you have to select the same verts on both sides. Right, and then kind of just do a... Oh, I didn't weld the verts. Okay, first you gotta weld the verts. I welded the verts, but I didn't weld the UVs. Come on. Oh, got to turn my select constraints off. Using constraints. Just you always have to remember to turn those off, or else you're gonna have a bad time. Edge. Alright, so it's so UV the edges. Alright, now we should really go in. Let's just go ahead and grab the other brush here. Just kind of. So you can see, like, if I don't have the same vert selected, it kills the symmetry, so it's kind of crappy, but whatever. Let's go in here, and again, just grab that, smooth that stuff out a little bit. Alright. So those are the UVs. Now, like I said, like this usually takes me a full afternoon to do this, at least, to get everything optimized the way I want. So this is a very quick way. But you can see that like that's kind of the layout you're going to be looking for. It takes up a lot of space. The face definitely has more resolution than the rest of the head. And even with that being said, I feel like I could have taken up more because it's still relatively small compared to the whole UV sheet. Like you probably could, this is a sloppy way of doing it, but really kind of give it some space. Let's see. So it's not actually that mean, it's definitely expanded, but it's definitely getting more room now than like the back areas, which I really like. And you can even do that for like little parts, like say the nose you feel needs more, say you feel like the nose needs more space, which it tends to often need that a lot because it'll stretch otherwise. So you might want to like, pull some of that out sometimes and just see. So that's helpful. And then last but not least, we want to, so this is, remember, a different vert order. What's going on here? There we go. This is a different vert order than your ZBrush model, so you want to get this back to your ZBrush model, right? And how to do that, just go to Window, UV Editor, sorry, Outliner. Under the chin, hold on a second. Let me go into, no, not that one. Just display all from there, display, show, all. We have a half head over here somewhere. I should name this up a little better. That was dumb of me. Okay, this is the original ZBrush one right here. Where is it? It's the half one. I must have, okay, isolate. Okay, so this is the original ZBrush one that I brought out that has the correct vert order. And this is, remember that we did the fast like projection UVs and then we duplicated it off. So what we're just going to want to do, and this is our one with the new UVs, you're going to want to select the new one and then Control select the old one and do a mesh, transfer attributes, and lose your window, and go ahead and do UV sets current based on topology, and it should, it did not. Why did it not do that? It's the same topology as far as I know, unless I may have accidentally merged an extra vertex. Let's see here. 8621, 8621, yeah, should work. Missed the history on them. So, new one, old one, topology, UV sense current. Weird, man. Not sure why it's not working. That's what I get for trying to do this thing that only works sometimes in class. It always works, but I don't get why it's not working right now. 1 second. Is the other one not actually merged properly? I think it did though. So I set this one again. There's nothing on the border now. It's literally the same topology. I honestly don't know why. I'll have to sit down and figure out why that's happening. It should just transfer because it doesn't. It is the same vert count up on the top here. See, so the one is 8621. Oh yeah, it did. The merge thing was too high. Okay, so we botched it. So that's what happened. So I accidentally merged 10 verts without knowing it. So my merge, when I merge, I should have like did 0.001 or something like that. I had it at 0.01 and it probably merged extra verts, which sucks. So I can't go all the way back now and fix that without being a pain in the butt. So another way around that is basically just saying we're going to transfer it based on world space instead. So you can do that, and this, and apply. And then, so you can hide this one now. This is your ZBrush one now. It should have transferred just fine. Yeah, it did. 'Cause it was so close. There's a little bit of mess in the method there. So you have to go in and fix that. If you did that method, it shouldn't be too bad. And then that's about it. And then you could just bring this back into ZBrush because it's the same vert ID as your ZBrush model. So that's generally how I would do like symmetrical UVs now. But again, like you can see that's prone to error, like user error. There's a lot of steps to it. And the thing is, if your UVs aren't perfectly symmetrical, it doesn't really matter. Like, especially if your head's asymmetrical, like you don't really want symmetrical UVs, right? Because there'll be different stretching. So if you're in like a production where everyone's sharing heads, then you probably want symmetrical UVs because like you just want the most averaged out UVs you can get. But for like a single character, you don't need it. However, like the UV layout itself is good because it's taking up a lot of resolution for the face, so you can probably get away with, instead of using a 2048 map, you can probably use a 1024 map and you get like a similar like look. Whereas if you like made everything, if you made the UVs in a way that everything was perfectly like all the text density was the exact same, then you might have to use a high-res map because your face isn't taking up enough UV space. So that's kind of what I was trying to get at there. And if you're really after symmetrical UVs, which they're nice to look at, but that you don't really need them, the new tool in my 2017 that I have to look at, I've heard is pretty good. So it makes that whole process obsolete and like a lot easier. So yeah, I think that's it for the UVs for the head. And like I said, I'll do another video this week going over some clothing stuff. So I had a feeling we wouldn't get to it today. Friggin' it takes forever. Are there any questions about any of that? How to go about doing that? I think if anything, the biggest takeaway today is the UVs are cool and taking up space is cool, but like the most important thing, and I just want to make sure I drill it into your guys' heads, is that when you do your low poly, make sure that your edge loops fall in like the correct anatomical places so that when you bake, all your high-res details, like the nasolabial fold, the like wrinkles in the eye, like the lower eye bag and everything like that, will fall onto an edge loop as close as possible, because that way when it animates, you'll be able to like get like nice wrinkles, and the topology will support your normal maps rather than fight it. So that's a very important aspect of it. All right. Just one important step. When you use topology, you actually just do one side. I usually do one side, yeah, and then I'll duplicate it over and adjust the second side if I have in an asymmetrical model, yeah. So you don't have to figure out both sides at once. You just figure out one side and then dupe. And then normally if your model's asymmetrical, like there's some stuff that's off and you have to like re-stick it to the asymmetrical side, but like it's not that big of a deal. Cool, guys? All right. I'm glad we got through that. That was a beast. That one's always like a beast, but it's boring, but like it's important information. I never learned that stuff in school, so like I always feel like people should know about topology a little bit and like UVs and just kind of understand it. So, and definitely check out that Jared guy's work. I'm going to call him later and tell him to like post something on here so you guys can meet him, but he has some cool stuff too. So, all right, guys, have a good one. I'll talk to you. I'll post some stuff throughout the week. I'll get to those. Hopefully I can get through all those critiques today, and look forward to seeing the work. It's been looking really awesome. I'm pretty happy with all the work you guys are putting up. It's looking good, man. Guys, ladies. All right, have a good weekend, or whatever's left of it. So take it easy.
Thank you, guys.